Hello, friends, and welcome back to Stories About Entitled People. Let's start our video with a story where OP, a 24-year-old bar manager, faces off against the ultimate bar Karen. But before we begin, best way to support our channel is to leave comments, like, and subscribe with the turned-on bell so you don't miss the new video every single day. Here we go. I refused service to her son. Now she's taking it further. I'm a 24-year-old bar manager in a fairly new bar. Coming into my shift on a Friday afternoon, I was warned by another coworker about a guy who may need cutting off and was too drunk. He then proceeded to stumble to the bar, swaying, slurring his words, requesting some drinks off me. I explained that I wasn't comfortable serving him anymore and may need to leave. That's when he called Karen. The hair, the attitude, the entitlement, all in one person. She storms over to the bar, this 50-odd-year-old woman requesting the manager, to which unfortunately is me. She stood in my face pointing. My son is not drunk. I told her that we were not comfortable serving her son anymore as he was too drunk. Now in a pub, there's someone for every situation. Fire alarm goes off, you've got firefighters in. Giving advice, someone's having a seizure, they help their friend through one so they know better. You've got water coming through the ceiling, they're a plumber. This Karen was a bar manager for 30 years. She thinks I shouldn't cut her son off, demanding where our point system is. For a moment, I completely forgot whether I'm in school or not. Point system? She responded with, he's not on drugs. Okay, good start. He's not broken a glass. Sometimes accidents happen. He not started a fight. Okay, so how people should behave in a pub brawl. But he's still too pissed, and we've got the right to refusal. Now, in the UK, in order to get an alcohol license, you have to take an exam. In that exam, I had never heard of this point system before. I've heard of 5 licensing objectives, and cutting someone off before getting too drunk is following the objectives. Then started demanding a piece of paper to write a 3-page complaint on how she wasn't given a reason, also emailed the brewery how I treated her son unfairly and that I was in the wrong. She then proceeded threatening me about Steve. I'll tell Steve about this, and he'll never step foot in this pub again. Now, this family must have been pure royalty. Celebrities, basically. Anyway, Steve still drinks with us and is absolutely lovely. As a parent myself, I cannot imagine going into any place on behalf of my aged child. They're grown up and can handle their business themselves. And our second story. Sure, we can follow the contract. I work as an account manager for a food distribution company. I have an NDA, so I can't disclose the type of materials or type of project, so that'll be relatively vague, but the story's still good. Okay, so we work with a chain account and service all their locations in our state. This is a relatively small but global chain that is historically very challenging to work with. Management's aggressive, pushy, just not nice. Our company is a tiny family-owned and operated company full of nice goofballs. We don't take things too seriously, provide great service, and put up with, honestly, way too much from them. We're their contracted distributor. There are a few items in the contract that no one follows and hasn't followed for years, one of those being monthly pricing audits. No one from their corporate had ever asked for it, but we never brought it up because our pricing is not always consistent with the contracted price we're supposed to charge the locations. Reason being is we're often able to get a product for cheaper elsewhere and also sell to our other accounts outside of this chain, so we're not always compliant, but it's always for the benefit of the customer. Well, our direct contact at the company quit, and the head honcho over there stepped in to take her place. He insisted that we begin sending monthly pricing audits per the contract. Mind you, this guy's just nasty. I've had to drive around to every location in the state to recover a product the locations use less than 1 case of a year because they wanted to teach us a lesson for running out of something one time. They assign us complaint forms that I have to go into their site and resolve the complaint. It's usually about something stupid. Example, you said that you were going to receive a product on this day, but you didn't tell us if you got it yet. Please write out your 5-step action plan and solution to be better partners to us. Ugh. So anyways, we dragged out the audits for a while, but were unable to avoid it. So we brought up another item in the contract that had been neglected in attempts to be like, if you're going to enforce this, we're going to enforce the whole contract. It stated that if we were carrying an item for this account that moved less than X number of cases a week, that we would be able to charge a storage fee per month that it sat in our warehouse. They said yes, we need to be following the contract 100%. Well, we found that almost 90% of the products did not move X number of cases a week and were eligible for a storage fee to be added on. The language stated that we were to also back charge for the months that it sat in the warehouse that we did not charge storage, which meant that there were items that had a price increase of $30 per case. That's ridiculous, especially for a restaurant in our state. We alerted the company and said, hey, while this would be more money for us, we really don't want to do that to our customers. They said it didn't matter and we had to follow the contract, and if any stores complained, I was to send them directly to their corporate rep. So the updated contract pricing went into effect, effectively bumping up pricing on their most popular items by about 10% and the storage pricing by about 30% on their slowest moving items, increasing overall pricing by about 25%. Stores are livid. It totally sucks for them and I feel super badly about it, but it's a result of their corporate being a-holes. The best part is, now I get these complaint things about pricing all day long, and I just get to tag their corporate representatives to deal with it instead. I have less work, and we make about 25% more off an account. They want us to follow the contract, right? Great, that worked out for OP's company. But I'm sure that this customer will be very quick to demand a contract renegotiation. And our next story. Coworker is territorial about her shared desk. I'll just make it worse. Our office is hybrid post-pandemic, and to cut down on costs, we now have a shared desk situation. The only people with permanent desks are the higher-ups or people who come in full-time. My coworker, who shows up about 2 times a week, still treats her desk like her own personal desk, even though our whole team is supposed to use it. She's a bit of a grump and never removed her personal items and pictures, even though we were asked to do so. 90% of the time, we just leave her desk alone because it's too annoying to deal with her complaints, and our manager basically avoids dealing with her because she's such a headache. But there are times when there just isn't many open desks, so I have to sit at her desk and things get moved, of course. Nothing major, just the usual stuff with a shared desk. But of course, she always complains and whines and tries to make us feel bad for using her desk. A few weeks ago, it got to be too much. Someone else sat at her desk and adjusted a lot of things, and so she blew up at me. I told her I hadn't sat at the desk, but she just whined about all the times before. I was done. So for the last few weeks, whenever I go past her desk, I make sure to move something or unplug something. It's been pissing her off so much. The best moment came yesterday when she was freaking out because the laptop died mid-meeting. She's not great with technology and was freaking out. Of course, she called IT, and when they came, they simply pointed out that her power cord was loose. Wonder how that happened. Our IT guy has a way of talking which was perfect for the moment because he basically walked her through a step-by-step process of plugging in the cord while everyone else could hear. She basically looked like a moron for not knowing how to check if it was plugged in. I couldn't stop smiling. This coworker's a pain, but the manager's the real problem, because solving problems like this are exactly why they theoretically exist. And our last story. Grandpa's pig farm payback on a snooty winery neighbor. This is a favorite story about my grandpa's clever way of getting the last laugh. Back in the day, he owned a piece of land that he'd picked up decades ago for next to nothing. It was a modest, undeveloped plot with excellent road visibility sitting right next to an upscale winery and bistro. He'd always imagined building something small there for fun after retirement, maybe a vintage car showroom or a fishing and hunting shop. When he first bought the land, he had it zoned as commercial, dreaming that one day he'd develop it into something he loved. However, as word got around about his plans, the winery owner, who happened to be well connected in the town, caught wind of it The owner worried that a less classy development next door might spoil the ambiance of his high-end business, so he petitioned the local council to have the land rezoned back to its original classification, which was rural land use. And wouldn't you know it, the winery's owner's cousin was a senior member on the zoning board, which gave him just the leverage he needed. Grandpa took on the battle, going through all the official channels to fight the rezoning, but as you might guess, it was a losing game. The board, with its connections to the winery, ruled in favor of returning the land to rural zoning, leaving Grandpa with a plot he couldn't develop as he'd planned. So Grandpa had a new idea. If they wanted rural, he'd give them rural. He decided to put his land to good use by starting a pig farm. Within a couple of months, he had a full operation, with over 200 hogs roaming the 10-acre tract. Summers in that part of the state were notoriously hot and sticky, and the smell from the pig farm quickly became impossible to ignore. The bistro's patrons began to notice, and business took a hit as diners sought out restaurants in town that weren't next to a pungent hog farm. It didn't take long for the zoning board, including the winery owner's cousin, to revisit their decision. The board reversed their ruling, allowing Grandpa's land to be rezoned as commercial once again. But here's where Grandpa's plan got interesting. In the state's zoning laws, land zoned for commercial use can also legally support any less intensive activity. So even though he now had the green light for a business, he continued to operate the hog farm. The winery owner tried to negotiate, offering substantial sums to convince Grandpa to sell or stop the hog farm, but Grandpa wouldn't budge. 3 months later, with business at a standstill and patrons choosing fresher surroundings, the winery closed its doors. Grandpa, now ready to move on, decided to shut down the hog farm and open a modest fishing and hunting shop instead. And when the winery came up for sale, he bought it too. His sporting goods store and the former winery still sit there today, a testament to his tenacity and one of our family's favorite stories about outsmarting the powers that be. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.